Hi, Speech 1315, and welcome to Chapter 17 of Public Speaking for College and Career. These are persuasive strategies that you can implement into your speech, and we're going to cover quite a bit today. So let's get started. So first and foremost, just like any speech, you really need to know your audience. But when it comes to persuasive speaking, you really need to know where your audience stand. Let me explain. So what is their level of the belief system that they have about whatever position you're standing on? So for example, if you're trying to persuade people that dogs are better than cats, are you speaking to a room full of people who are unaware of the issue of the difference between dogs and cats? Or are you speaking to a room of individuals who are about to all buy puppies at an adoption center? Those are very different ranges. So we've talked in previous lectures that there's a ton of different ways that you can gain information about your audience members. One of them can be by just assessing through a survey what their knowledge is about said topic. So you can say on a scale of, oh, I apologize, I don't know why these numbers are mixed up, but if it said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 being you need to change their mind, all the way to reinforce beliefs. So if they're a 1 unaware of the issue, you need to change their mind of like, this is an issue and this is why we need to take action about it. 2, they're aware of the issue, but opposed to your view. 3, they're aware of the issue, but apathetic. This means that they don't have, they're kind of like either or, they're kind of like whatever happens, happens. 4, they're informed, so they know about the issue and they're interested in what you have to say, but again, they're neutral. They're just kind of like, whatever. 5, they're convinced of your view. So they're like already on board with you that dogs are better than cats or cats are better than dogs. Or 6, they're ready to take action. So they are ready to get up in arms and go rally for dogs versus cats. But it's important to know where your audience member stands because this will impact how you formulate your speech. You also need to build credibility. This is a persuasive tactic that needs to be used. You can use personal expertise, such as maybe you've lived through something, or you can use expert sources. This goes back to getting credible resources that I discussed about in chapter 6, I believe. But you need to build credibility and show that you are credible to be speaking on this topic. It can be as simple as, I've done 5 hours worth of research to talk on this, which is more than maybe the average. You could have lived through something. And like I said, you could have done the research. Going back to the expert sources, you need to provide evidence. You need to make sure that when you're assessing the evidence, is it accurate? Is it up to date? And is it typical? Again, if you need a refresher on this, I would recommend going back to chapter 6's lecture video. You also want to use sound reasoning. So this is what I've been saying throughout the semester in a variety of videos of like claim, data, warrant. So you want to generalize, give a specific instance or conclusion. So your generalization is your claim, whatever you're trying to support. Your specific instance is the evidence that supports the claim. And then your conclusion wraps up the idea. An example of this is space exploration is desirable. That's a claim. Evidence. A space station is an important part of space exploration. That is true. We don't need research to show that. We all can attest to that, right? And your conclusion would be a space station is desirable. But claim, data, warrant, that's how I would recommend viewing this using sound reasoning deduction approach. Oh, I apologize. Deduction is the generalization specific, yes. And then specific instance to conclusion is induction. So you're taking a specific instance and you're immediately going to conclusion. So the outbreaks of COVID appeared in many nursing homes, impacting both residents and workers. We all know this. We all viewed this. The conclusion is nursing homes should be locked down, not allowing visitors, right? You could also do the deduction approach with this as well. And you could say that there were a lot of COVID outbreaks in nursing homes. Provide evidence to support that claim. You could say a study done in 2022 found that 90% of all nursing homes in the United States had some level of COVID in them. The conclusion is that nursing homes are an area where there's there's very high COVID numbers. So that's another example of how you can use sound reasoning, whether you're using deduction or induction for your speech. You can have fallacies in reasoning, but you need to be careful of them because they can impact your speech. Fallacies are kind of like these when you use your words to make it seem like things are one thing, but they're really not. So for example, the bandwagon effect or the bandwagon fallacy is essentially saying everybody's doing this, right? So Ozempic, right? Everybody's taking Ozempic. Well, that's not truthful, right? It's making it seem like more people are doing something than they actually are, when in reality, there are quite a bit of people who are not on Ozempic. Then there's hasty generalizations. Let me just review my notes on hasty generalizations. Is a conclusion that is reached on the basis of insufficient information. So you just come to a hasty decision. And then the red herring is where you distract the listener from the real issue. So you talk about an irrelevant matter. This trick is frequently used in political debates. So instead of, maybe talking about the real issue at hand, they'll switch over to something completely else. That's called red herring. You can also have an attack on a person. This is a fallacy in reasoning. You don't want to attack people. I think it can really just kind of reduce your credibility. You can state that there's a false cause. You can build on an unproven assumption. So you could say, the majority of kids have dogs, and you could build on that when in reality, that may not be a proven assumption. You also need to be aware of false analogies. So for example, someone might say, if we can put an astronaut on the moon, why can't we find a cure for the common cold? Those are two vastly different things, and those are false analogies. And then you also could have the either or analogy, like we could either have an astronaut on the moon or we could find a cure for the common cold. That's also a fallacy. We can obviously do both. The straw man, I'm going to have to read my notes again because there were quite a bit on this one. In some arguments, people ignore their opponent's true position and substitute an exaggerated version, a straw man, which is easy to defeat. For example, a politician may attack his opponent for advocating for an expansion of Medicare to low-income employees. So they may say, my opponent wants the government to control everyone's healthcare. That is essentially an exaggeration or a substitution of the real version of what someone said. The slippery slope is when you assume that one small event will set off a chain reaction. Until at the end catastrophe occurs. So you may say, if we don't recycle, the world is going to end due to global warming, right? That's a slippery slope. We can't say that, drinking out of paper straws or using plastic straws is the determining factor of global warming. So that's a slippery slope that you need to be careful of when you're walking, when you're saying your speech. When you are persuading, some strategies is you can appeal to people's motivations. So in psychology, there is a very famous hierarchy of needs. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a visualization of it. And essentially, Maslow said that we all have motivations and that all of our needs need to be met before we can get to self-actualization. So let me break it down. In the physiological stage, Maslow argues that this is where we are looking for like food, water, you name it. If we have food and water, we should be able to survive. If we're healthy, our physiological standpoint is good. After we have food, water, and healthcare, are we safe, right? Do we have shelter? Are we afraid of being attacked? If you don't have food and water, you can't move up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, essentially. And then if we have food, water, shelter, we have safe, and so that means we have safety. Do we have love and belonging? Do we have friends? Do we have community? Do we have a romantic partner? And then after that, do we have esteem? What is our self-esteem? How do we view ourselves, right? And then after that is self-actualization, or the ability to think critically outside of oneself, or to engage in creation, I guess you could say. But when you appeal to people's emotions, you need to, when you're persuading people, you need to be aware of their motivations and where they're at. if you're in a room full of individuals and you're trying to persuade them on why they should adopt puppies, but everybody in the room just went through a massive hurricane and they're without power, they haven't slept, and they're tired, do you think that you need to jump right in? No, you need to be aware of their emotions and appeal to their motivations. So you may say something, hey, my whole speech is about why you should adopt puppies, but I understand that for many of you right now, you don't have a house to go to because it was destroyed due to the hurricane. And handle that objection moving forward, because that is a great persuasive strategy to show that you are empathetic towards your listeners. You can also arouse emotions. So arousing emotions can be really beneficial to get people to take action. So for example, if people are angry and you are giving a persuasive speech on why you should rally against XYZ, the chances of them going out and taking action are really high. In fact, my advisor at Michigan State University, she created the anger activism model, and her whole research is about what level of anger do people need to get to in order to riot about a cause or go out and create a mob. What level of anger does that look like? Similarly, sadness, on the other hand of the coin, other turn of the coin, is a really great reason why people might take action. So if you're really sad, you might decide to do something about it. Similarly, joy and delight are another reason why people might take action. So a lot of people who are getting married go, they're on the hunt for vendors. Well, in Houston, there is the Houston Bridal Extravaganza. And if you walk around there, there is a booth where they are selling adopted puppies. Well, if you think about it, weddings are a really cool time. Everybody's happy and there's joy and there's delight. And, there's people moving in together. Maybe they don't want to have kids right away, or maybe they don't want to have kids at all and they just want dogs. And so the chances of people buying dogs are a lot higher. And so they're arousing this emotion of joy and delight to persuade individuals to purchase dogs. But you can combine emotional appeals with rational appeals to support your claims and to get people to take action. Some tips for your career. One, don't expect universal success. Even the most amazing presenters and speakers are not able to win over all of their audience members. We see this a lot with politicians, right? Like, there have been some phenomenal speakers that have come in the previous decades, and they win over a lot of people's votes. But similarly, there's a lot of people who don't vote for them. And so don't expect universal success when it comes to your persuasive strategies working. And then two, when you are in debate with someone, because in your career it will happen where, someone says, I think we should do this, and you're advocating for something else. It's always important to be reasonable and fair, because when you're using those persuasive strategies, essentially, you need to, fight fair, essentially. Like, you are going to have to use persuasive strategies to support your claims and your viewpoints, but you also, like I said, just need to be mindful of them and understand what strategies you're using and the power that they have. And hopefully this video got you a little bit closer into understanding how those strategies work. If you have any questions, as usual, just email me and let me know if you have any, and I'd be happy to discuss them with you. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video.